defend you. May He always shield you from shame. May you come to be in Israel a shining name. May you be like Ruth and like Esther. May you be deserving of praise. Strengthen them, O Lord, and keep them from the strangers' ways. May God bless you and grant you long life. The Lord fulfill our Sabbath prayer for you. May God make you good mothers and wives. Husbands who will care for you. May the Lord protect and defend you. May the Lord preserve you from pain. For heroes
Well, Shabbat Shalom to all of you.
You. You're the oldest. They have to make a match for you before they can make one for me. Sorry.
You have to make a match, I guess, to light the candles with. I guess that's the match she's talking about. Could be. But Shabbat Shalom to all of you. What a beautiful second day of summer. It's not too hot and it's not too cold. It's just perfecto. No schwitzing for us. But I want to take this time to welcome all of you during this tumultuous time. And sometimes tumultuous things are very good. As we mentioned last week, the children of Israel were complaining about the food. It was terrible. They didn't like it. And then they also complained about the portions were too small as well. And God starts getting really aggravated with them. And they want to know who's going to make their food, and God provides for them manna from heaven. And the manna tastes delicious. But if you like chocolate sundaes or cappuccino blasts, you know that after 10 or 12 days, it gets boring and you want a change of pace. And so the same thing happens with the children of Israel. When we got manna from heaven, it wasn't good enough. And then God gets really mad at the children of Israel, and Moses does too, but he calls them a bunch of stiff-necked Jews. And what happens after that is that God says, we're about to enter the promised land, and there's a whole group of you who will not be able to enter the land because of your attitudes. And what happened was that a lot of those people, during the 40-year journey, died. And so Moses says, let's send a chieftain, an elder from each of the 12 tribes to the promised land to scout it out, to see which way we should go, what the land is like. Well, when the chieftains come back, they have different stories of what does the promised land look like. And the 10 of the 12 people said, it's dry, it's arid, there are wild beasts there. We can't survive. It's not a land for us. And that was 10 of the 12 from the tribes. But Caleb and Joshua said, it's a land chalav udavash. It's a land that is flowing with milk and honey. and there's lots of positive things that we could do there. And I think we should go there. And the grapes are bigger than big. And those images of the grapes are sort of like what became one of the symbols of Israel was the big cluster of grapes that two people are carrying on a on a pole or a branch. And the idea is that things will be okay. But those 10 of the 12 people said, this is terrible. The food's not good. The accommodations aren't good. No one's washing our clothes for us. Let's go back. And Moses says, you can't go back. You've gone this far. We can't go back. And we don't know what our fate would be, but we need to move forward. And that's a real important thing. We need to move forward. And we have basically an older group here today, which is good, except for Carla and Matthew and Hadassah. But, in the 60s, I remember that how frightening it was when we were working for civil rights. And in the 50s, when we were working for civil rights, my parents were working to free Soviet Jewry, that there were setbacks. And I remember when they assassinated President Kennedy, how everybody worried and was full of fear and like, who are they going to kill next? And there were killings, and there was Kent State where the Nard shot some of our young college students. Have to move forward, and I think about what LBJ did for the Voting Rights Act, what we did for affirmative action, and there is systemic racism, and it's existed for hundreds of years. But it's not as bad as it used to be, but it's nowhere near as good as it can be. And that's the challenge, and we need to link arms and encourage those who are legally and quietly but forcefully protesting. And so we find that we need to get to the top of the mountain. And as Martin Luther King said, he could see it, but we might not be able to get to it. I can see it, but I know I might not be able to get to it. But I know there's a whole generation of young people out there, and young, is anyone in their 40s or 50s or 60s, or someone as young as Hadassah or El, and they're going to find causes that are worthy and causes that inspire them to use their faith and to use their Judaism. So I am very hopeful with all that has gone on. I'm not necessarily proud of some of the things that have come out of the White House, but we can't always agree with the White House. Maybe things will change. But in the meantime, we need to support those people who are putting their lives on the line, the Caleb and the Joshuas who have the courage to see the positive side of the reality and what we're working toward. This is the most difficult of times, for our country going through a recession, depression, going through the problems with granting full equality to all of our students and all of our adults and the children, and giving opportunity. The virus is just all consuming. But this is what Shabbat is about, not by thinking about those things, but by realizing that in times in history, there have been difficult moments. And as they say in Torah, and this too shall come to pass, and this will pass. But the idea is to keep, our heads about us, to keep our sense of faith, and to move forward. So I wanted to get that out of the way while we're waiting for all of you to enter our services. And we look forward to beginning this Shabbat. And it's Shabbat would not be as good if we weren't all together. And so that's what we're going to begin with, I understand, with Hine Matovu Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. And I think Ella is going to help us with it.
We were expecting Elle.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is. Good.
Great.
Do you guys
So do you
want
want
to unmute yourself so you can do it with me?
Okay.
Good idea.
Everyone? Yeah, how? How do you do that? Unmute all. Oh. Okay. That's it? Where's the word?
Steve, can you put the words up?
Oh, no, you have to do that.
How do you do that?
Okay,
You have the PDF.
right, but you sent it on Slack. Never mind.
Okay. But I think most of us know it.
Okay, good. Hold on.
Great. And then I put this on, right?
Umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim
Hine matzavu manayim Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, El. Thank you, El. Good. So we're gonna jump to page 120 for the candle. So we're going to
Anybody
move
else
down
want to
to page
leave the candle
120.
blessing?
Please, yes.
Should I do it?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah. You have the picture, you have the candles there.
And they can see it? Okay, that's good. I had to change things around at the last second.
Okay.
So, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Melech haolam, well, that's right. Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Good, good. All right, so now we're going to go to Lachadodi as we welcome Shabbat. And we welcome Shabbat as an oasis in the middle of a difficult week. We welcome Shabbat as an opportunity to find menucha and shalom, peace and rest from a week that could be full of many, many things. And it could be full of COVID boredom. It could be full of people who have had to cancel vacations and cruises and trips because of the limitations. So we welcome Lachadodi. The imagery with Lachadodi that was so wonderful was that it was like watching a bride coming down the aisle. Those of us who've been to a couple weddings in our life always look forward to that being perhaps the happiest, the smilingest time for all of us, except when we get dinner. So Stephen.
So we're going to do the happy version of Lachadodi, where we're going to do verse 1 and then skip over to verse 9. And if you feel like standing and inviting the Sabbath bride into your home and pointing towards the door when you stand for verse 9, that would be great. לך לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לה לה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור דברכות בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושם ותפארת ולתהילה, לה 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 לה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Everybody, לך דודי, לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קלה, big finish. פני שבת נקבלה.
Thank you, Steve. Now we're going to get, now that we're warmed up, we can do, Shalom Aleichem. And again, that means, peace unto all of you, and it's a welcome. Our Arab brothers and sisters say Salam Aleichem. And we say Shalom. And, we share our traditions and we share our thoughts and we share, both the Arabic and the Hebrew are both Semitic languages. And so we have a lot to share. And, I hope that we continue to share and to understand one another and bring all of us closer to the day when we are all at one and all at peace.
Yeah, so this is on page 142. If you have the Mahzor, it's supposed to have the PDF on the screen now, but God will get that in due time. Shalom Aleichem, Malechei Hasharet, Malechei Elyon. Melech Malechei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oachem leshalom, Malechei Shalom, Malechei Elyon. Mimelech Malechei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzveitchem leshalom, Malechei Shalom, Malechei Elyon. Melech Malechei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Good. On the bottom of page 142, peace be to you, O ministering angels, messengers of the Most High, Majesty of majesties, Holy One of blessing, enter in peace, O messengers of peace, angels of the Most High, Majesty of majesties, Holy One of blessing, bless us with peace, O messenger of peace, angels of the Most High. Seichem b'shalom, depart in peace, O messengers of peace, angels of the Most High, Majesty of majesties, the Holy One, blessed be He. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Good.
So speaking of Baruch Hu, this is the call to prayer that's on page 146. And the Baruch Hu melody we all know.
And those who want to stand may, of course, stand.
La 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 la. La 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Leolam Vaed. La 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 la.
Why are you doing that too? Can I unplug this?
And Doris is going to share a reading with us now on page 149. Yes, Doris, Doris, you need to unmute yourself.
Doris is over at Jackie's house.
Correct, but she still needs to unmute.
So,
oh, there you go.
right.
She's
There we go.
unmuted.
Is there any chance, I did not bring my copy of the Siddur. We have one, but it's an older one. Do you have the PDF of it, of that page?
What is it?
I gave it to Gal.
I
Gal
can't open it.
has-
I can't open it on my computer.
Oh dear, I
I
see.
can only
Okay.
open it by
Okay.
email.
What is she reading? We can just find it in the book.
We'll find
here.
it in this book, yeah.
This is an hour of change.
Okay, the hour of change.
It may not be in the older book.
I think it's not.
Right.
Let's see.
So-
Let me see though, what would be.
This
All
is
right.
something to say after the Baruch Hu, and if not,
Yes.
I can read it.
Okay, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Okay. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over?
What we would.
Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it, we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim.
Good, thank you. And then we have on page 150, Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, atanu limadata. Everlasting love you've offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments, and we will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them. They are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise be you, Adonai, who led us people of Israel. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael.
There it is. That's it.
So now L is going to do the Shema, right?
And
It's on page 152.
correct.
181. Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know if it turned on.
So I'm going to stand up.
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai
Shema Yisrael, Adonai
Eloheinu,
Adonai Echad.
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai
Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu,
Adonai Baruch Shem Kivot Shem
We're stopping soon.
Good.
Very nice.
Good. And then we had the Via Hafta next, and that's talking about, loving God. And, one of the ways, and people can say, I love God, and they could recite all the Tehillim, all of the praises, all the poetry. But the idea was in Judaism, don't say you love God, show it. Remember, in therapy, you used to say, don't tell me you love me, show me. Well, God is the same way. He says, just don't recite the prayers, show me. And whether that's, adding to the quality of life in your community, for your family, to the world, whether it's, and I think that's why so many Jews are teachers and doctors and helpers and nurses and lawyers, because there's something in us that says, you need to help other people. I remember one year in rabbinic school, we had somebody who was admitted to rabbinic school. Parents were very, very, very wealthy. If I told you the last name, you'd know who it was. And as you know, rabbinic school, like many Jewish organizations, the donors are really important. And this young man's father was an immense donor. And he was eliminated from the program at Hebrew Union College. For nothing bad, but other than that, they felt he couldn't academically handle the material and didn't have a good grasp on it. And so they dropped him out. And I remember saying, talking to him and said, Fred, how are you holding up? He says, you know what? I really thought about it, and I can probably do more good with my father's money in the community than I could with being a rabbi in a small pulpit. Also, for a medium-sized pulpit. And so the idea is that there's more than one way of helping in the community. And thank God, not everybody has to be a rabbi. But he found ways in which he personally could help others. And he could have done it by being a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor. Or someone who is social worker, whatever the case may be. So there are many ways of helping. And that's how we show we love God. And the prayer, the Via Hafta, is that type of prayer. Thou shalt love the God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy might. And that's what's really important, is that we find many ways to love God, to love one another, and to love the country we're in, the religion we have, and the community in which we have created. So, who would like to help us with the Via Hafta? Any volunteers? Well, let's see.
If there's
I'll
nobody
do
else.
it if you can put it on the
good.
screen.
Oh,
I can't open Slack on my computer.
yeah.
I
Okay.
Can't open the PDF.
That's why I won't be able to.
You can send
What
it to
about the
me.
PDF I sent you, Jan?
I can't switch programs. If I do, it'll knock me off of Zoom.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Jan, you're one
Where
of a
I
kind.
am, there's not real good reception here, but it is beautiful here.
But Steve, if you share it, if you send it to my email, I can share it on the screen for everybody.
Oh, boy. Well, I'd have to go back to my computer. I just have my phone here right now.
Okay, not a problem. Not a
Hey,
problem.
Elle
I can do it. I can do the Via Hafta if you want. Or
Good.
Elle can do it. Which one? Elle, you want to do it or should I?
she can do it. I'm bringing it up for her. Come on.
Okay.
And we thank Elle for jumping into all these parts of the service that she was really not prepared for, but we
What
thank
page
her.
is it again, Rabbi?
Yeah.
I'll be right there.
It's
It's
on
on
page 154.
Yeah, I found it.
Oh, good.
Great. Thank you.
והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Beautiful.
we show God in many ways that we love God, but we love our community, love our fellow human being. And one act of kindness was Dr. Green, who last Sunday, instead of attending the meeting full screen, she was out driving the valleys and hither and yon with flowers and arrangements that she had created for our teachers. And so we thank Jackie, Dr. Green, for taking her time and going out and and schlepping to the valleys to hither and yon, and making sure that we had these beautiful flowers and the arrangements. Someone who goes out of the way to give someone smiles, to add beauty to another's house, should be applauded, and we do applaud Jackie for all that she brings to the people.
Yay.
I was disappointed this year with her Passover performance because we didn't have the Seder that she usually gets to shower upon us, but maybe next year in Temple City, I'll invite.
Next year in Jerusalem.
Well, I don't know. That would be nice. That would be nice. I know that Gal would like to do it in Jerusalem, and I know that Orly would like to do it in Jerusalem, but I'll invite next year in Jerusalem. But again, we thank you for also being, a formidable member of Sisterhood and a wonderful, someone who's helped out our religious school. And you've just gone, above and beyond, and we're all the richer because. So we thank you.
You're welcome.
So for our next reading on page 155,
yes.
Larry Alpert is going to be doing that reading in English. Are you there, Larry?
pressed it.
I know, but maybe 180.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Just give me a moment to unmute.
Okay.
There, on one page
We hear
55,
you.
I've got a switch here.
And we also want to thank Larry for being one of our newest board members. And Larry's history goes back since he was a little kid at Temple Beth David. I don't think he's been at Temple Beth David as long as Doris, but like Doris's parents, his parents were formidable people who contributed much to our temple and worked whenever there was an opportunity to help support the temple. And for some of you who don't know, in the old days, when we were young, I guess those are in our young days, his parents were key figures in bingo. And I remember Ruth calling your house and wanted to talk to Don. And I said, can I talk to Don? She says, no. She says, Don's at the temple, changing locks. He should be here, redoing the floor, but he's at temple doing locks and you can't speak to him. So Don.
And that's not locks and bagels.
Yeah, that's true. That was, he had the locks that had keys to them. And so he was always here helping, and whether it was with the locks or plumbing or electrical, or there was another, in those days, our roof used to leak and he would help us with that as well. I think it leaks again in these years too, but anyway, but Larry, thank you for coming on the board, and thank you for always looking out after us.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. It's all in good timing.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, so shall I go ahead and begin the love your God with every heartbeat?
Yes.
All right. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I commend you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work. Whether you're tired or you're rested, let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God.
Correct. And that pretty much coincides with our Torah portion about being led out of Egypt. But the journey is not always what they had in mind. I think they thought they were going to, the homeland of our people, Miami Beach, but it was no Miami Beach. It was no Miami.
Well, this kind of goes right along with, shall we cross over?
Yes, right, for sure. So now we're going to the Vishamru, and for those of you who have the Siddur, it's on page 162.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. שמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני, את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נחש, שבת ויהי נחש, שבת ויהי נחש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Good. So as you know, the people of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, but more importantly, it's the Sabbath that has kept Israel together and keeps our community together. And, you know, if we didn't have Shabbat, you know, when would we have time for 30 families or 30 computers, you know, to get together, and how reassuring it is. And when you come to these sessions, you don't have to sit and see the back of someone else's neck. You get to see up close, and you get to see people and their faces, and the contentment and the bewilderment and everything in between. Okay, so we're going to continue now on page 162. Do we have a reader for that, Stephen?
No. Anybody
Okay.
want to volunteer doing page 162? The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat. Okay, you're on, Rabbi.
Good. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat. V'shamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat. L'dorotam brit olam. Beini u'bein b'nei Israel. U'hi le'olam. The people of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time, as a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from work and was refreshed. And so what's wonderful about that prayer is that I'd like to explain it to Elle, and I'd like to explain it to Ozzy, who's here. Sometimes you're going to have projects. You're going to have a term-long project. And Al, how does it feel when you have a major assignment and you turn it in at the end of the school year? I remember what it was like. For me, it was a great sense of relief. I got to, you know, that's over. Again, it could have been better. It could have been longer. It could have had more references, but it's over. And that's the wonderful part about Shabbat. The week is over. There's nothing left to do. If you didn't make enough widgets, if you didn't have enough billable hours, tough. The week is over. And if you want to do more, make more widgets next week or more billable hours or whatever the case, you can do it. But next week. But what do you do now? Do you beat yourself up because you didn't make enough widgets? No. You enjoy yourself. And the idea is to enjoy the Shabbat as a day of delight. And if going out in the garden is, and sitting there or in planting is wonderful, that's good. Orthodox Jews would say you can't work in the garden. But if it's not work, you can do it because you enjoy it and it adds beauty to the world. Also, there's the old adage was, you know, what happens, God forbid, there's an earthquake and a house caves in. Who's going to remove the bricks and the stones? And it's Shabbat. And you know, the Orthodox Jews were saying, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And the idea there was that pikuach nefesh, the preservation of the soul, is much more important than keeping Shabbat. And so the idea is if you can help somebody or something, you know, if you're a doctor or a veterinarian and there's a case that you have to attend to, it's not a violation of Shabbat. And if you help anybody, even if you know you're not a doctor and you see a cat that's caught up in a tree or a dog that's, you know, that's been hurt, it's okay. You can help them. So, you know, it's really important of keeping the Shabbat, and the idea is that it's a day of joy. a day of setting back. And it's a day of studying Torah. How many of you study Torah 6 days a week? Probably not too many. And this is the one day where you could say, you know what, I'm really supposed to do that. And if your spouse says, Yankel, you know, the lawn needs to be mowed. And Yankel can say, Rachel, forget the lawn. I need to study Torah. And God will be much happier if I study Torah than if the lawn is mowed. So he says, I'm going to get off the grass for today. So that's my little story of that. All right.
So on page 164, Adonai Sifatai Tiftach Kufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. And then on page 166, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu ve'imatenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzhak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר השדה אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
Good, thank you. So we acknowledge in our Judaism the mothers and the fathers of our religion and their different ways. You know, we talk about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then we also talk about Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, Hannah, and Ruth. Is it that we don't know who we want to model ourselves after? And the answer there is the reason why we mention so many of them is because there are many ways to be Jewish. There's many ways that people do it. And there is not one way to be Jewish. And so that acknowledges that, you know, Abraham was different than Isaac, and Isaac was different than Jacob. And Sarah was different than Rebecca and Rachel and Hannah and Ruth. And so we're all going to be a little bit different. And, you know, God gave each of you a very unique thumbprint, and it only belongs to you. And you have to decide, you know, what is your life going to be about, and what can you do and what you can't do. And there's certain times of our life when we're helpless, and there's certain times of our life when we're hopeless. But the idea is with faith, we can get through it and realize that these are transitionary points, and we do not have to be stuck in the abyss, but we can get out. How are we going to get out? When we're going to get out? No yet. But if we don't make the efforts, we won't get out. And so that's what our faith is. And we don't have anybody else. We just need to be ourselves. So what do we have next?
Well, this is a point in the service where if we were in the sanctuary, we would have silent prayer. And we can take about half a minute to just be quiet and talk to God, whatever is in our hearts right now. So I had planned at this point to talk a little bit about Juneteenth and the time on June 19th when Texas finally accepted the Emancipation Proclamation to free people who were under slavery in the United States. Of course, people who have experienced slavery in the United States are kindred spirits to our Jewish tradition because we were slaves in Egypt and God brought us out of Egypt. And this Torah portion, this parashat, talks about what happened after it was time to go to our promised land. And Rabbi can talk a little bit about that. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to talk about a poem that the African American people have adopted as their national anthem. And at President Obama's first inauguration, there was a reverend, I looked this up, it said Reverend Edward Hughes Pruden, but then in another section, it was a woman. It was the first woman to ever give a, and so whoever that reverend was, that reverend talked about the third verse of this anthem, and the name of the anthem is Lift Every Voice and Sing. But this is, I'm going to sing the first verse, but this is the words of the third verse. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met, lest our hearts drunk with the wine of the world we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. So this is the first verse of Lift Every Voice. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let us rejoice loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
Beautiful. And, it was nice to see that some of you, knew that. New to me, but I'm glad that some of you knew it with a K. That's great. That's good. Mm-hmm. We have announcements. Tomorrow night is the wonderful concert by our own Cantor Orley and her brother. And for those of you who remember Bryce, who interviewed at Temple Beth David, is going to be in that. And a few other people. And it should be very uplifting. And that'll be tomorrow at 6 p.m. And I think we can get it from the website. The link is there. And so please join with her. And I'm sure it'll raise all of your spirits as well. Next Friday night.
So Cantor Orley was born on the summer solstice, I guess.
Uh-huh.
The longest day of the year. 14 and a half hours of sunshine.
Really?
Well, that's tomorrow.
No wonder her parents used to sing that song. They used to sing that song to her, "You Are My Sunshine." Maybe that's why. That's what I heard. What do I know? Next Friday night, the 26th, we have services, also 7:30. And also June 28th, the last Sunday at 11 a.m. will be a a calendar workshop as we put together the plans for the coming year. Whether it's religious services, whether it's our wonderful adult education, whether it's sisterhood activities, religious school activities, and if you have something that you would like to add to the calendar, we encourage you to do it. So on page 371, we have the Mishaberach, and we have lots of people in our congregation who are ill and who are not doing well. And it's our hope that we can give them strength to endure through this. I was listening to some of the accounts of the people who were caught with COVID and how difficult their lives have been. And they said they had times where they didn't think they were going to get over it, and that their lives were going to be, we're in the final hours. And they hung in there. And the idea is, let us hang in there, and let us, reach for that inner strength. Ultimately, we as Jews said, whatever God decides, but I'm not going to give up this life easily. But if God decides, ani tzarich latzeit, then I have to go. So we do a mishaberach for all those who are ill, and if some of you would like to mention people, there's about 29 or 30 of the computers. So if you want to mention someone, that's fine.
Anna Popik.
Good.
Leah Cami Stein.
Adriana Pizzos.
Samson Wassley.
Ken and Shirley Anholt, Marty Kravitz.
Robert Riera.
Good. Well, good. It's a short list. Maybe that means that people are getting better. That's good. We have less ill in our community. So we say the Mishaberach, for healing to those people. Now the Mishaberach is to give people a sense of quiet and calm and peace. I wish if we went to the City of Hope and we sang Mishaberach out in front of the doors, or sang it on every floor, that the next day the hospital would be empty. But that's not how it goes, and sometimes we don't know what the divine plan is. But we do hope that that we are able to accept the divine plan. We are able to accept our challenges, and we help people when they are in dubious straits. So Steve, if you'll help us with the Mishaberach.
Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha imotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. We have lots of questions in life, and I'd like to think that Judaism answers all of them, but it doesn't. And as some of you know, that when you have a problem, those of my age group, we pick up and we do a WebMD search or a Google search or a Yahoo search. But during biblical times, thousands of years ago, I don't know if Elle knows it, but they didn't have iPads in those days. They didn't have computers. And so when you had a problem, you couldn't do a Google search or Yahoo search. But Jews had problems then, as we have problems today. And this prayer, Esainai al Haharim, Me'ayin Yavo Isri, we lift our eyes into the hills, and where does help come? When life is miserable? And the answer was, Esri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim ba'aretz. It comes from that power, that source that's made both the heaven and the earth. So again, we can look into the hills, and the hills have been there a long, long time, and God willing, they'll be there a long, long time after we're gone. But where is the answer? The answer is by having faith. The answer is by looking above our situation, not just seeing how it affects us internally, but that there's a larger community out there. There's a larger world, and we're only an teensy part of it. And so sometimes we think we're the whole world, and what happens to us is the most chashuv, the most important, but it really isn't. So that's what Esainai is all about. So now we're going to transition to the Aleinu, and if you want to stand up, you certainly can. And that's on page 586. And I think we were going to ask Elle once again. Elle, we're sorry to nudge you so much, but we're so glad to have you to do it and to provide a young voice, and hopefully someone will unmute you, because at the moment now you're mute. Oh, there you go.
I think I fixed it.
500 and is it 89 something like that?
86.
586.
Yeah, 586.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, v'atet gdula liotzer b'reshit, shelo asanu kilye haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech kol haaretz, vayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
Beautiful, thank you. Now, this is also another prayer where people genuflect, because part of the translation of the Hebrew is, to thee alone every knee must bend and every tongue swear homage. Well, if the knee is to bend, I guess we could do squats or something, but that's not what we usually do in temple. So we would bend forward. But it's symbolic of, like, when like an emperor would come into the room and he would walk by you. You could bow your heads, or you could bend down or bend your knee, so to speak. And so there are many different ways of showing respect to somebody. I don't normally wear a hat, so I can't tip my hat to them. But the idea is to have a respect for God and for those powers that are definitely higher than we are. Good. All right. So part of, anyway, as some of you know, or some of you don't know, one of our, I guess, our longest reigning cantor in terms of Temple Beth David was Cantor Mimi Hasselkorn. And she was with us for for 18 years, and she's out in the valley, and I think Ellen and I went to her 15th anniversary of being out there in, I think it's Shabbat Shalom. No, it's a conservative congregation. I forget the name of it, but anyway, it's where Rabbi Vogel is at, and we got a chance to go out there and talk with them. And their services, some of I've told you before, was anywhere between an hour and 9 minutes and an hour and 11 minutes. And so I talked to Mimi just this week. I said, how are services? Still between 9 and 11? You know, meaning an hour and 9 and an hour and 11, not between 2 hours, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. She says, no, now they're between 55 and 57 minutes. So anyway, it's nice to have that 2-minute, reference point. But so if we were Rabbi Vogel's congregation, we would have gone over that. But we will validate your parking, even though we've gone over the 57-minute limit. And so we have what's called the Mourner's Kaddish, and that's a prayer. People think it's prayer for the dead, but as you know, from me, we don't pray for dead people. We pray for living people. And this prayer is all about life. How wonderful it is that we have life. Question is, what are we going to do with it? And that's our challenge. What are we going to do with it? And we don't know how long it's going to be for, and we know that when it's gone, it's gone. So we remember the Yortzeit, the anniversary of people's passing. I would like to change the tradition. We remember the birthday of someone's birth and the life that they lived that, hopefully can be emulated in certain parts. Overeating on cappuccino blast, you don't want to do that. I've done it, but you don't need to do that. And so, you don't want to follow me as a role model at Baskin Robbins. But there are other things that, might be worthy. So we have to choose, what's going to be worthy, what we can do, and what's within our power. On this particular Shabbat, remember the Yortzeit of Linda Rubenstein, David Bernstein, Lillian Schwab Thompson, Leon Shapiro, Edna Branzel, and Marjorie Gardner. Zichronam Levracha, their memories are indeed a blessing. If we remember them, if we're inspired by them, if we're instructed by them, if we remember how they lived in their highest moments. And that's the purpose of remembering someone's life, not to remember their death, but to remember that our life is limited. And so if you were to look at the English translation of the Mourner's Kaddish, it's not full of a lot of negativity. It's full of being grateful for our lives. And can you be grateful for your life every day as you live it, every minute? That's from our town. And, you can't live every minute like, wow, but you can try to put more meaning into our lives and to the things that we do and appreciate what we have and rejoice in what we've experienced with one another. So on page 598, if you have your Siddur, Yit Gadal v'Yit Gadash Shemei Rabbah, V'Yalmad Yivrach Rutei, V'Yamlich Malchutei, V'Chayachon V'Yamachon V'Chol Beit Yisrael, V'Agalav Yizman
Kariv Mu'amen.
Yeheshem Rabba V'Rach V'Olam U'Meyeh Maya Yisbarach Yishtabach V'Par V'Sadar V'Salel V'Salel Shemei Kudeshat V'Chu Leila Min Chaberchata V'Shirata Shishbahata V'Nemata Damparach V'Amen Yehi Shlomo Rabba Shemaya Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Imramein Shalom V'Imramein Uyasei Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Imramein Osei Shalom B'Imramav Hu Yasei Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Imramein. The departed who now remember have all entered the peace of life eternal. Though vanished from bodily sight, they do not cease to be. They abide in the shadow of the Most High. They live in the hearts of those who remember them. And hopefully what they do is inspired from generation to generation to generation. And it's interesting because you think about, what's important and what are legacies. And I think about the legacy of the rabbi who inspired me to become a rabbi, Rabbi Alvin Fine. And he's the one who wrote in our High Holy Day book, birth is a beginning, but life is a journey. It's a growing from stage to stage. And he was my rabbi in San Francisco. And I think about him often. He's, you know, I remember the congregation getting mad at him when Martin Luther King came and spoke at the temple. And that's when Martin Luther King was considered more of a troublemaker than a social prophet. I remember when he had Cesar Chavez come to the temple. The parents, you know, many people thought, what a pain in the tuchus this guy is. And I remember my father was a grocer in North Beach. And I remember him saying, you know, Alan, he called me Alan. My father never called me rabbi when I was growing up. He said, Alan, you know the price of grapes now are going to go from 39 to 59 cents a pound because of Cesar Chavez? And I said, Dad, do you think everyone can afford it? You know, did you see how those people live? And, you know, he got it, but he said, I'd rather have them at 39 than 59 a pound. And I said, I'm sure the people would be too, but the price of having people live like that, if we all paid 20 cents a pound more, it wouldn't be bad. And so I think about that. So when I was on Wikipedia several months ago, I looked up Temple Emmanuel San Francisco, and you know, my mentor, my leader, so to speak, was not in the chronology of the rabbis there. There was a gap, and Rabbi Alvin Fine was not there. And I said, what, is this the right Temple Emmanuel? And I knew the other rabbis who they'd listed, and sure enough, I called in, and they changed it the next day. But it's like, you know, what is his legacy? What is anybody's legacy? You know, it's what you do here and now that's important. If I were to mention to all of you Rabbi Engel, Rabbi Camillus Engel, except for Larry and for Doris, nothing. Well, he was my predecessor. He was only here for 17 or 18 years, a short timer in Temple Beth David's history, but again, he left a wonderful, wonderful legacy for me to follow. But is it a great legacy? Yes. Is it remembered? No. So legacies are something that are, you know, that are temporary, but it's the next generation who can keep it going. But when you go 2 or 3 generations, you know, it's pretty amorphous. So that's what I think, you know, about people talking about legacies and whatnot. Steve, are we beyond the 57 minutes?
Yeah, let's see. It's 8:42, so yep.
We're on
It's more like 102 minutes so far.
And Jan, was Jan going to be able to do the wine and cheese and challah blessing?
Well, I'll do the wine blessing.
I can do the challah.
Jan,
I can do the short form of the wine, but I need the screen in order to do the whole thing.
Oh, well, can you do that?
Steve, if it's on the PDF, then I can share it now. I figured out how to do it.
Good. It's one of the last pages.
Okay. So give me another 2 seconds until I do it, and then.
Okay.
Any questions from anybody? Anything you have to do with you know, world hunger or the magnetohydrodynamic flow with the transverse magnetic field? Any issues with that? Any of you might have? No.
I've got a granddaughter
Rabbi,
here who probably could explain it.
Oh, good.
Oh, wow. Wow. So, Rabbi, you and I shared earlier this week about how you and I had experienced when we were younger the Watts riots,
right?
At least on television, you know.
On television.
It was a scary time. Yeah.
Weren't you there, Steve?
Yeah, where there were not in Watts, but
no,
you know.
I was coming home from Hawaii and they shot at our airplane as it was landing.
Oh my goodness, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
but,
and so right now, you know, there's the black community is still upset. And, you know,
And rightfully so.
1863, they were freed as slaves, and it's still taking time for everybody to accept them. And
Right.
there will be some people who will never accept them. So
yeah, it's
because
terrible.
There's always going to be people.
You know, for another time, I'll share with you when we worked in Watts after the riot, and we set up what was called the Mitzvah Corps, and we rented a fraternity on USC's campus, and did this outreach into the to the public, and we invited some of the people from New York who were going through some difficult times to come out and to give some hope to the people here. And the people who lived in New York, in the terrible sections of New York, came out here and said, how could these people riot? It's so beautiful. You know, they have their own grass, they have their own yards, they have this and that. Well, the reality is not everyone lives like that. The reality is that no matter what you have, sometimes you don't appreciate it. And the Watts riots were, I think, very justified at the time, and that we've made a lot of progress. We're with a group of people who, as a result of the Watts riot, started opening up more businesses in the Watts area.
Right.
And so it was wonderful. There used to be a toy company. We made the first dolls of color, and it was called Shindana Toys. Who started Shindana Toys? Well, it was money and the ideas behind the Mattel people, the Handler family. And that was a very important industry for a long time for Mattel. But anyway, so now we have, the whole kiddish. So grab your bottle of wine, or those of you who just drink out of glasses, that's fine. So Jan, you got it there, huh?
I got it, yeah. I have to hold the phone to my ear to listen, but I'll put it in front of me to say. Okay.
Who are you listening to?
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit kihu yom tehila mikrai kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh haShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. I have a beautiful challah here. Were you able to see me or not?
Well, depends where you put the challah.
Okay, because I didn't see me. I'll hold the challah up and I'll do the motzi. Just a sec.
I think we're seeing the challah now, right?
See it?
You put it in front of your face. Can you put it in front of your face?
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices join in happy chorus as our prayer is humbly said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Okay.
I also want to thank the Bernstein family again for the Havdalah set that they gave us. It's the first new Havdalah set I think it's almost 35 years that we've had at Temple Beth David. So we thank you again. It's nice to see you here. You know, sometimes parents would only come to services if their mishpucha was there, their you know, the family, but you came anyway. And so how wonderful it is that you're here. And it's so wonderful to see so many of you who I know. I think I know all of you except for Becca. I don't know Becca, unless it's a Becca that's changed her name or something.
Hi, no, actually, me and one of my classmates, we wanted to check out your service. We had never been to a Jewish service before, so.
Really? So is that Becca and who else?
Myra.
And Myra. Well, very good, because those were names I didn't know, but that's good. Well, thank you. And again, we hope you learned something from it, and we hope you enjoyed it. The purpose of the Sabbath service is to bring community together, to sing some songs we know, and to make us think about the Torah a little bit and some of the lessons there. And I hope that our service did that for you today. And I hope that tomorrow it's uplifting with Cantor Orley, what she's trying to do.
Yeah, thank you very much. We definitely appreciate how welcome you guys were.
Yes. Now the question is, will you come again? There you go. All right. So we'll know for its success if you come visit us again. If you don't, oh well, I'll blame it all on Steve.
Ha!
Ha! You think I won't? You think I won't?
Yeah, okay, you will. Okay.
Shabbat Shalom to all of you. Feel free to stay around and schmooze with one another. And again, we had 29 people, and how wonderful. If we were at Temple, we'd have 25. So thank the extra people. Shabbat Shalom and Shavua Tov, and in the coming weeks,
Shabbat Shalom.
And the world.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Mike. So anybody want to talk about Black Lives Matter and Juneteenth and the Watts riots and stuff like that?
Yeah, Steve. This is Wayne. Yeah, so I grew up right across the street from Washington High School, which is on 108th and Denker. Okay, the heart of Watts was 108th and Central. Okay, so what, maybe a mile and a half, 2 miles. At the time, when it broke out, we took the train, even though I worked for Amtrak, but that was an Amtrak back then, that was Santa Fe. We went back to see my grandparents on my mom's side for the only time ever. But my dad still had to work. And going to and from work, he had to go through barricades and show proof where he's going and when he's coming home. So, yeah, that was scary because he was out here by himself and we're 3,000 miles away. So.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a scary time back then.
It's a Sabbath bread. Sabbath bread.
Yes,
Oh, sorry, you guys. I was telling the kids what the challah is.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Yep, no problem.
So Wayne, I have an even scarier tale.
Uh-huh.
After the Watts riots, my father bought a liquor store in Watts.
Whoa.
With a partner. It was cheap, I guess. I'm guessing. I don't know. And one night he closed up and somebody hit him on the back of the head with a gun.
Wow.
And it was, you know, he was found in the middle of Main Street because he tried to drive the car. He was bleeding all over and he just passed out in the middle of the street. And I remember as a child going to the hospital and they wanted to operate. My mother wouldn't let them operate, but I was really shocked when I saw his sweater with parts of his hair and blood, and I didn't know what to think about it. I must have been maybe 11 or 12 years old at the time. And it was really scary. And my father was in the concentration camp, you know, along with my mother. So, you know, he understood brutality, you know, and he was around it. But fortunately, he did okay.
Yeah, I wasn't quite 10 years old yet.
Right. Yeah, I was probably 11, you know, and it was, you know, big shock for me. Even today, when I'm in the middle, you know, there are some people who were, you know, like firefighters or doctors, you know, they run after terrible things and they try to help people and they try to perfect things. I'm a guy who freezes, you know, when something like that happens. And it's probably because of some of those experiences I had as a child, especially that one.
Yeah,
you know.
that's scary. Yeah.
So, but you know,
Now, why
what's
did she
happening
not want
today, you know?
Why did she not want them to operate? Did he need to
I
be
have
operated?
no idea.
Yeah.
You know, he did okay. You know, he finally passed away from a brain tumor, but that had nothing to do with that or the way he was treated in the concentration camp. And, you know, I think one of the things that happened in the concentration, of course, they never talked about it. My mother and father met in the concentration camp. And they were from two small towns that are next to each other in Poland. But they never talked about it, except one day my father told me that he could take the skin off of his hand and it looked like a glove. So I knew that was dysentery.